to watch the Israeli indiscriminate killing, murder, using 2,000-pound bunker busters, which suck the air out of the lungs of children for 100 meters and often destroys these young kids, has been a horrifying experience. Both my parents are Holocaust survivors. My mother was in Auschwitz. She was Hungarian. She survived. After a year, she was one of 5 sisters. When they arrived at Auschwitz, the 5 sisters were sent to one side, the mother to the other. Nobody understood this was selection. And the oldest sister there said to the youngest, the 13-year-old, go stand with mother so she won't have to be alone. And the 2 of them were immediately gassed and incinerated in the crematoria. And all the other sisters survived. My father was the sole survivor of 5 brothers and sisters from Poland. Something happened, I think, to the Jewish heart, to the Israeli heart, from the Holocaust. I wrote about this in The Syrian Sunset, my novel, and the screenwriter has lifted that scene into the screenplay exactly. That has brought the Israelis' indifference to other people's suffering. It's as if their suffering, our suffering as Jews, is unique, but it's not unique. The Holocaust was unique. The suffering isn't. I try to stay away from words as a novelist like ethnic cleansing and genocide because they're buzzwords and they inflame people and they immediately trigger emotions so that sometimes overwhelm thoughts. But I do think what the Israelis are doing in Gaza is indiscriminate mass murder. And it is horrifying for me to watch it, as it is, and people who aren't Jewish or aren't.
One of the things I really enjoy is the way in which you don't otherize anti-Semitism as apart from other types of racism. It is the worst type of racism, is the way it's being described, and therefore anything is justified in stamping it out.
Including completely enacting every single one of its core stereotypes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like whoever we have to become in order to defeat the anti-Semites, including the anti-Semites' most feverish fever dream of us.
You know, this question around the exceptionalism of anti-Semitism. I mean, every hatred is different. You know, every hatred has its own texture. It has its own tropes. It has every hatred is different. But this idea that there's something extra special, right, about Jew hatred that is completely primordial, right? It will always be. It's this incredibly pessimistic. You know, I think it would be called Judeo-pessimistic. You know, it is the argument for Zionism, right? It is it because if it's like other hatreds, then it can be covered by the UN Declaration, you know, on human rights. I mean, it can be governed by a universalism, right, which is supposed to address all the forms of hatred, right? And
doesn't pretend that someday it's going to wipe any of them out, but we can find ways to minimize the harms,
exactly,
and that no one group ever gets to, no one minority group ever gets to not face.
There's no curing.
There's
no curing that.
And so I think that like you're saying, this specialness of anti-Semitism, right, and needing its own definitions, but not just needing its own definitions, needing its own country, needing its own special laws.
Yes.
So much so that in protecting that special, all of those exceptions, it's willing to bring down the entire international architecture of universal human rights, right? Which is where we are right now, and it's that incredibly unhinged moment. I mean, in some ways, that is the sort of ultimate twinning, right? Like out of the Holocaust, you get these two, you get this kind of, I've described it as kind of like the fork in the roads, right? Like, you have the whole architecture of international humanitarian law, the Geneva Conventions, the Genocide Conventions, all of it. And then you also have the ethno-state, right? Which is this idea that actually none of that is going to work against anti-Semitism. So there can only be a fortress. You can only just put a gun to its head and force it into submission. You actually can't hedge your bets like that with universalism. Like you actually have to go all in. Like we really do believe that one set of rules applies to everyone, or the exception becomes the rule. And that's the moment that we're in now.
Yeah.
That is so, so terrifying. All the doubles with Israel are just, it gets at the sort of the anti-Semitism at the heart of Zionism, right?
Yes.
Because the new Jew, the figure of the new Jew, loathes the old Jew.
Yes.
Right? It's full of disdain. It's constantly blaming Jews for the Holocaust, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the work of de-exceptionalism, which I think we really need to work on in so many ways, right? It brings us back to the Holocaust, because the Holocaust was also lifted out of history, right? And it was treated as a special kind of genocide that can't, in fact, it's anti-Semitic to even put it into dialogue with history, right?
Yes.
And so that was where what I really didn't expect this research to take me to, was this whole body of literature, which I'm embarrassed to say I did not know, which was, all of the scholarship from anti-colonial thinkers, from W.B. Du Bois to Nehru, to Aimé Césaire, who were saying at the time, European fascism is a doppelganger, a twin, to use Nehru's phrase, a demon, to use Césaire's phrase, of European colonialism and imperialism. And it was treated like, so that at the time it was being understood by the Allies as, this is such a rupture, this is such an exception. And this is how you've treated Black and brown people all over the world.
This blind defense of Israeli brutality towards the Palestinians is a betrayal of the memory of all those killed in other genocides in other times. The lesson of the Holocaust is not that Jews are special. It is not that Jews are unique. It is not that Jews are eternal victims. The lesson of the Holocaust is that when you have the capacity to halt genocide, and you do not, no matter who carries out that genocide or who it is directed against, you are culpable. And we are very culpable. The F-16 fighter jets, the Apache attack helicopters, the 250-pound smart GBU-39 bombs are all part of the $3 billion military aid we give to Israel. Palestinians are being killed tonight with American-made weapons. But perhaps our callous indifference to human suffering is to be expected. We, after all, kill women and children on an even vaster scale in Iraq and Afghanistan.
The campaign to kick out President Gay did have illuminating moments. Bill Ackman is a graduate and billionaire donor. He has tumbled to the fact that whiteness at Harvard is deemed fundamentally oppressive, and that Jews are presented as white people. It is therefore okay to hate Israel and Jews, as they are deemed to be oppressors. Mr. Ackman says he only just figured this out. Better late than never. But he's Jewish, and complains mostly to President Gay about the anti-Semitism that has exploded on campus during your presidency, adding stupidly, "Anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine for other discriminatory practices at Harvard." No, white hating is the canary in the coal mine, and it flopped dead in its cage decades ago, even though billionaire Bill never noticed. The GOP never noticed either. On December 5th, House Republicans held a press conference with Jewish students to talk about anti-Semitism on campus. Fine. When did Republicans ever invite white students to talk about anti-whiteness on campus? The fact is, this is not anti-Semitism in any real sense of the word. The people chanting "from the river to the sea" don't hate Jews for the reasons Gentiles are alleged to hate them, that they killed Christ, or control Hollywood and the media, or they're pushy moneylenders, or were tax farmers in the Middle Ages, or because the demonstrators are secret admirers of Adolf Hitler. No, that stuff is completely alien to them. These students are just doing what they are trained to do, see everything as oppressor versus oppressed, settler versus indigenous, global north versus global south, and above all, white versus everybody else. And in that schema, rich, light-skinned, nuclear-armed Israelis make an easy target in their fight against swarthy, charity case Muslims. Jews who have pushed diversity and anti-whiteness for decades seem to think they get a special exemption as Holocaust survivors and perpetual victims. Thanks to current events and to Jewish wealth and prominence, Jews are not just white oppressors, they are uber oppressors. The question, therefore, is, will Jews learn anything? Will they insist that the solution is Holocaust awareness training starting in kindergarten? Will they demand that DEI officers add them to the victims list so they can be coddled and made to feel safe along with blacks and trannies? This Jewish law professor makes the stupidest possible argument in the bluntest possible way. To fight anti-Semitism on campus, we must restrict speech. The value of free speech has been elevated to a near sacred level on university campuses, writes Claire O. Finkelstein, another ignoramus or liar. Anti-Semitism and other forms of hate cannot be fought on university campuses without restricting poisonous speech that targets Jews and other minorities. Please, she says, hate white Gentiles all you like, but leave our precious Jews and other minorities alone. This dope is on UPenn's Open Expression Committee and is chairman of the Committee on Academic Freedom. And here she is, calling for closed expression and academic slavery. Claire, darling, the more you tell your beloved non-whites that Jews are victims too, that you share their pain and millennia of agony, the more they will hate you.
The first very deep-rooted value, and let's face it, is the value that we are the chosen people. If we are the chosen people, who are you to tell us what to do? Who are you? Who is the international community to tell Israel what to do? International law? Wonderful thing. It doesn't apply on us. It applies on any other place on earth, not on Israel. Because we are the chosen people, don't you understand it? And we are the chosen people. And we don't need to prove it. The second very deep-rooted value is obviously the value of we, the victims, not only the biggest victims, but the only victims around. It's getting harder and harder to be more brutal than the Israeli occupation. I don't recall one occupation in which the occupier presents himself as the victim. Not only the victim, the only victim. If to quote here the late Golda Meir, whom I quoted also last time, I know, but it is so unforgettable I have to use it again. She once said that we will never forgive the Arabs for forcing us to kill their children. We are the victims. We are forced to kill their children. Poor us. And as the victim and the only victim in history, again, it enables us the rights to do whatever we want, and nobody is going to tell us what to do because we are the only victims. To this, there is a third very deep-rooted value, and this is the very deep belief. Again, everyone will deny it, but if you scratch under the skin of almost every Israeli, you'll find it there. The Palestinians are not equal human beings like us. They are not like us. They don't love their children like us. They don't love life like us. They were born to kill. They are cruel. They are sadists. They have no values, no manners. Look how they kill us.
Often when there is dissent expressed in the United States against policies of the Israeli government, people here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew?
Well, it's a trick. We always use it. When from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust. When in this country people are criticizing Israel, then they are anti-Semitic. And the organization is strong and has a lot of money, and the ties between Israel and the American Jewish establishment are very strong, and they are strong in this country. As you know, they have power, which it's okay. They are talented people, and they have power, money, and media, and other things. And their attitude is Israel, my country, right or wrong, the identification. And they are not ready to hear criticism. And it's very easy to blame people who criticize certain acts of the Israeli government as anti-Semitics, and to bring up the Holocaust and the suffering of the Jewish people, and that justifies.
Problem comes when you think that you're better than other people, and you think it's okay to lie to anybody that's not a Jew. You think it's okay to steal from people that are not a Jew. You have two sets of standards. The problem with that is it allows you to rationalize anything, right? And human beings are generally self-serving creatures. So if your fundamental religious belief system allows you to operate in such a way that you believe there isn't consequences to stealing from other people, killing other people, raping, kids that are under 9 years old, like if you think those things are okay, then, how are you going to operate? Because to me, like, my moral code keeps me on track.
You do?
I don't like a religion that says that they're better than other people. And what's that?
Well, you do. You obviously do. It's blatant. No one watching this will draw any other conclusion. I'm staggered about how brazen you've been.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it when people think they're better than other people. And you see that in Israel, and they're acting like that, and they're treating Palestinians like second-class citizens. They're treating them like subhuman beasts, and it sells that in their Talmud. So it says if you are not a Jew, that you are basically subhuman. And I don't think that Judaism and Christianity go hand in hand. I mean, they believe that Jesus is in hell burning in human shit, and they believe the Virgin Mary is a whore. So I don't think those are two religions that really intersect very well. But, we've been programmed that they do, and we've been programmed that it's okay and that Jews are the chosen people, and I just disagree with that. I think everybody's equal.
Do you even comprehend how this interview is going to play out when it airs?
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be bad. But, my opinion is not politically correct, but I believe that is the truth. There's 2 billion Muslims, but everybody wants to, promote this anti-Muslim, this hatred for Muslim, like they're all, these terrorists. And I think the Israelis are the terrorists. I think they are the ones perpetuating the big acts of terrorism. And, nobody wants to talk about that.
And what do you say to Jewish people who may watch this and be utterly horrified by what they're hearing?
They can be horrified. I mean, I was horrified to find that they mass murdered Christians. I was horrified to learn the things that they teach in the Talmud. I was horrified that they think that Jesus is burning in shit in hell. I was horrified that they think that the Virgin Mary is a whore. I was horrified to learn that they think it's okay to steal from Gentiles. I was horrified to hear that there's, two sets of justice. I was horrified to find out that they think it's okay to, gang rape Palestinian prisoners. I was horrified about all those things. I'm horrified that we're funding a genocide right now. So they can be horrified.
Dan Bilzerian.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.